Hello and welcome to Infinity and Possibility. I've been told by my sister last week that she thinks it would be more engaging for it to be 2 weekly. I think it would be really exhausting. I mean, I've got a full-time job and I'm a lot of work. Getting out of bed is a lot of work for me. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, thanks for waiting for me. And again, thanks for all the support you guys are giving me. It's really spurring me on. And this week, as promised, I managed to get a hold of a guest. Through that lasso, managed to get it around somebody, and against their better judgment, they're here with me today. So we'll get right into it. So this episode, we're going to be looking at nihilism, which is a school of philosophy that thinks that everything is meaningless. We'll be talking about asthma and living with asthma. And I also want to try a new jingle out. So let me know your thoughts on it. We'll see whether I stick with this or I go back to the other one. So grab a tea, grab a coffee, grab a biscuit if you're so inclined, and remember, anything is possible. Joining me today is the kind of man who is rare to find but impossible not to appreciate. His warmth and empathy shock and awe me on a regular basis. A deep thinker who ponders the benefits of nihilistic thinking on freedom of the mind and communistic ideology on social happiness. A giant in the hospitality industry with an insatiable appetite for ice water. Welcome to Infinity, Solomon.
That was a great introduction, honestly.
I'm happy to have you here.
I'm like, okay, I'm in the presence of masters right here.
No, I've been wanting to have you here for
Honestly,
a long time.
as someone I've seen preaching, I'm like,
Preaching.
your introduction game is that much better than that. Yeah. I'm impressed.
I had to give you your dues.
Yeah, you know what? I started picking up myself when I was hearing you. I was like, oh my God, I'm a great person, aren't I?
You're phenomenal.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Oh man, it's great to be here, man.
It's great. What better day to have you on than your birthday? How are you feeling?
Oh man, I'm feeling old, wise, and most of all, I'm like, I've made it, man. I've made it. I'm celebrating every year. I'm like, I'm aiming for that 120.
What can you tell me after another revolution around the sun? What's changed for you?
Oh, what's changed for me? Honestly, the importance of family, man, and friends. Honestly, especially friends. Like, I grew up with a close-knit family. My sisters are the best people I know in the world.
Your sisters
I can lean on them, I'm like, you know. You have to appreciate. But yeah, with friends, I'm like, there's that bond you make in the world with strangers.
Yeah.
And it just tells you that sort of unification of humanity.
Yeah.
Of like another person from a different tribe just coming together, and you find the humanity in each other, the friendship, the same sort of humor. And I'm like, that's so rare. With my people, my sisters and stuff, I grew up in the same home. You grew up in the same, like, sort of food, spiritually, socially. But with friends, it's something that you have to work on, discover, and just, it makes you feel like you fit in the world because you're so far removed.
They don't have to like you.
Exactly.
But they do.
But there's something just about humanity that
big up friends. Speaking of friends, you spent a lot of time with your friends this week celebrating your birthday.
Oh man.
What can you tell us?
Honestly, I didn't think I was going to celebrate this year. Because you know what? Once you hit 30, anything after that is like, do I really need to put that much effort into that? Like, if life is going well in your 30s, right? That's when you really celebrate.
Yeah.
Because you have more stable relationships in terms of friends, girlfriends, or whatever it's going on in your life, whatever relationship. So when you're celebrating, it's much more flexible and much more honest with people.
Now that you're 32, and I say that like it's a long way away from me. It's actually not that far. This year I'm going to be 28. So in a few years, I'll be right where you are.
I can't wait for your 30, man. Like, man.
Please,
With
don't wish that on me.
no, man. I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
Getting out of the bed is already an ordeal. I can't imagine what it's like when I'm 30 years old. But now that you're 30, just for me, can you explain on the scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all nihilistic and 10 being everything is meaningless? Where are you on that scale?
Oh man, I really want to say I'm on a 10. You know, I really want to say I came from that part, but at the moment I'm like on a 7 because I need that intervention of God. You know, I see. You know, you see the problems in the world, and you hope that there is a higher power able to not fix it, but to nudge things along in the right direction. Because we've had this planet for like how long? And you're just hoping that something can stop us before we mess up things too much.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I see like people like my niece and my nephews, and I'm like, these people are smart. They'll do better than we did. And we've been trying to do better than our parents did. So I'm hoping, like, you know, I get to 120.
Do you know, at one point when I was younger, I set my goal to live until 104. Because I was born in 1996, and if I live to 104 years old, I will die at 2100. I'll die at I'll die in the year 2100. And if I manage to do that, that means I have lived in 3 separate centuries.
That's such a scientific.
Like, this tells you the kind of loser that I was.
It betrays your nerdness. It just betrays you. Because I'm listening to you and I'm like, that's so cool. We should all aspire to that. My 120 was like, I just want to see.
Just pull a number out of the air.
I'm like, man, can you imagine the type of technology they're going to have? Like, that's what I'm hoping for, just to watch a TV from like the last 10 years of my life and see the human race just explode and just become more beautiful and wondrous than I can even imagine. That's what I'm hoping for.
See, that's the kind of thing that I wonder about sometimes. I wonder if, like, my dad looks back at footage from when he was a child, right? He was born in, 64? Yeah. I wonder if he looks back at footage from when he was a child and it feels like a whole different planet, because I try to watch like World Cup footage from like 1972 or something like that, and they didn't move at the same speed we did. It looks odd, and I'm just like, it's probably the cameras and the lack of technology, but maybe the world just did move at a different speed. And I'm like, will it feel that way when we're that much further along? But for those of you who are not aware, nihilism is defined as the rejection of all religious and moral principles. It's basically the belief that life is meaningless. So you might, without knowing it, be also a bit of a nihilist yourself. And you said that, you know, you see your nephews and your nieces and you think, wow, these kids are so smart. And I see the same thing with my nephews and my nieces. And I think when I was this age, I was practically rolling around in mud like an idiot. Yeah. And these guys, they're building rocket ships out of building blocks. Yeah. And I just think the world has to be a better place with people like that. It can't all be for nothing.
Yeah, man. I was so surprised the other day. I received a story from my sister. One of my nieces had wrote it. And it was a story about time travel. And the time travel was so unique because it was time traveling like sort of in the same street, but she's traveling back through generations, meeting like... she meets her mother as a young person, then she meets her grandmother as a young person, and then she meets her grand. You know, like it's just that creativity where I didn't have even the thought and idea of creating something that complicated when I was like 12, because the idea of time travel would come from like Terminator. But you know, those 90s action movies, the thing I was thinking about after that movie was like, not time travel, but okay, the gun. The Terminator. I'm like, how strong is it? Can it fight again? You know, like that was the sort of thing. But these people, this generation, you know, the younger generation, they are thinking about the social fabric they live in already.
Yeah.
Whilst we had to wake up to it. And I think with every generation wakes up earlier and they incorporate it into how they see the world and how they navigate. That's why I have so much hope for the future when it comes to them.
I mean, my speaking of nieces and social and economic causes, my niece became a prefect at her school, right? She's 8 years old. She became a prefect. And I was talking to her. I said, "You're going to be the next prime minister. And when you're prime minister, you're going to exempt me from all taxes." Do you know what she said? She said, "Actually, Uncle C, I'm going to raise taxes."
Oh, that's socialism.
Because we need more money to keep this, to go green. We need more green causes so we can save. Do you know what I mean?
Like, yeah.
I wanted to be mad. I was like, how can you extort me? But at the same time, I'm like,
you know what's exactly what we're supposed to be doing, you know? Like, it's always fascinating how that, because there is that correlation. Asthma usually catch on when you're younger, right? But then it disappears between. Then it catches on later on, depending on the health conditions and stuff. Like, that's when it comes back. And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, that seems like the wonder of, like, so... I don't want to put any political term on it, but the idea of, like, helping your neighbors, you know, like... all that other stuff, it disappears as you grow up. Because as you grow up, you become a high schooler and you go into different like specialization and you focus on the thing you're good at, and the world sort of like forces you into a point of like making money to survive. You know, that kind of thing. Like, you grow up, you have to be responsible.
We all slowly become more and more capitalist in our thinking, because it's all, we need more money to do more things and to be more comfortable.
Exactly. To be free, you need money. To be independent, you need money. You know, to be all these things, to
do the things you enjoy, you need money.
To realize your true self, you need the power of money. And it's only later when you become more comfortable after chasing that you start to see the world around you. And if you're lucky, you see it earlier on in life, where you're like, you know what, I'm comfortable now, I got my own house. Nowadays, that's going to be like, I don't know how that's going to take, but, you know, once you get that comfortable, you start to see the world again, the way you used to see it when you were younger.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you know what, I've let these ideals go. So I'm happy to see that the young people have better ideals than we have.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if they lose them in between, the ones they'll get at the better end of it would be greater than we have at the moment.
Yeah, I think even I worry, because obviously the teenage years are probably the most hard years for anybody. It's a period of kind of life just throwing new things in your path.
Sure.
So for my nieces and nephews who are so intelligent now and they're so driven and they've got this tunnel vision. My boys, they're like, I want to be footballers when I grow up. My nieces, when I say boys, I mean my nephews. My nieces, they're like, oh, I want to be, you know, the prime minister, or I want to be a ballet dancer. And they're so driven. And then once the teenagers come along, hormones, puberty, adolescence, all gets thrown at them, and all of a sudden they hate everything, and they love boys and they love girls, and they are too fat and they're too ugly, and their voice is breaking, and it's all awful. And now all that drive, all that direction magic, just disappears.
Yeah, that's a sad thing.
And then you just pray, get through that and rediscover that same drive as you exit those teen years.
True. That's one of the things I'm grateful and angry about growing up. You know, like, growing up, it's you know what, when I was young, I thought growing up was like you gain something. It's like gaining points. You gain a level, you're gaining more power, you know, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
But now, as I was going through it, it's like a realization of what the world is. And most of the time, there's rarely something new. And this is the weirdest part. Like, most of the lessons I'm learning as I'm growing up and stuff, and as I was growing up, that I know now, it's like people told you before. Your elders and people who've lived life have told you.
Yeah.
But the realization, like, you just have to get there on your own. That's the thing that scares me. Like, how many mistakes do you get until to a point where you get it? So that's why I get scared for the next generation. I'm like, I hope it doesn't take them as many mistakes as we have gone through.
But I think that's the thing with every parent, you know. Every parent, essentially, they've made their mistakes and they tell you, don't do this, do this, go to bed early, eat your vegetables, exercise, all of this kind of thing, right? And you go, oh, it's fine, stop stop nagging. And then you reach a point and you go and you think, I should have listened because you've got your autonomy,
Yeah.
but they're trying to help you because they've been through it. And then you get to the age where you're like, oh, I should have eaten my vegetables and I should have slept earlier because now I wish I wasn't as big as I am, or I wish I was healthier than I am, and things like that.
It's even worse than that. Sorry to go. Because it's even worse than that, because it's like you get to a point where your parents were telling you to be. You know, they were telling you to be this, you know, eat your greens, sleep well. Like, that's basic. They have lived life and they understand the benefits of these things and they see the light. But at the same time, to a certain extent, you're supposed to surpass your parents. You have to get to a point where, like, oh, my parents, that point they made, I don't think that's right. I think there might be a better way.
See,
like,
that's the thing. That's the thing. I think surpassing your parents only comes once you understand them.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. If you're thinking that's teenage behavior.
Yeah.
If you don't understand your parents and you cannot give them grace,
Because
you are not there yet.
exactly, because I thought, oh, I'll never send my child to bed at 9. I'll let my child go to sleep when they want. And then you reach a point and you say, I understand why they were telling me to do that.
No, you know what? The worst one is like when you're like 19, 20 and you start to believe you know better than your parents. Oh my god! You don't.
If you're
No,
20,
you don't.
if you're 20 and you think you know better than your parents, your mental age has to be like 13. Because at 20, you should be getting to the point where you understand some of what they're saying.
No, you know what? It's like but okay, I have to give an asterisk. There are some parents who are obviously
we all know people who have no purpose being parents, no right to be parents.
Yeah, there is that point, but at the most part, it's like these people, there's something valuable there, and I still find it very frustrating when I learn these lessons. And I'm like, oh God, why didn't I just listen? Like, I know this for real. But once you experience it in life, you take it in.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to everyone, just like, take it in. You know, it's not personal.
Yeah.
You know, you're not born, you know, omnipotent or omniscient.
That's the one.
You have to learn.
Yeah.
And when a lesson comes, be humble enough to learn it.
I think even if you don't learn it then and there, just don't forget it. Because one day you'll think back to that very thing, and
some of us will learn with repetition.
I actually took some quotes down as people would say them, and I might not have agreed with them. But I was like, that sounds poignant. And I'd write it down. And one of them, this one was from my dad. He said, people that don't care about you will never tell you anything. I thought to myself, that's wrong. If I don't care about someone, I'm not going to care about their feelings. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to tell them exactly what I think about them.
Then you care.
And then I realized, then I care.
Yeah, you care.
It's only the people that you care about who you actually do want to correct or inform or reprimand, because you want them to be a better version of themselves. The people that you don't care about, you don't want to expend that energy on them. No. You just keep it moving.
Yeah, and I want to say this when it comes to internet age as well. Hate, right?
Yeah.
Like, hate is a form of caring.
Yeah.
Like when someone is commenting like, you're such a terrible whatever, 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 you know? And I'm like, you cared enough to type that.
Do you know? Do you know
But
how?
at the same time, criticism should be received humbly. But at the same time, when it goes to the internet, it's just
Yeah.
it's not.
When the moment it comes from a stranger who you don't know, who's got
Yeah,
no right to
it's
tell
not
you
productive.
anything, you're like, how dare you correct me? I know myself better than anybody. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. But like you said, the amount of energy it consumes to fuel hate, because you're thinking about this person and they don't know you exist. And you're acting out your thoughts in
True.
sending them a message. And all this energy, you could be learning a new language. You know, you could be speaking Mandarin, but instead, you're busy sending hate to somebody who doesn't even know you exist.
Yeah, it's like I can understand. Like you've listened to a podcast for like 40 minutes,
Yeah.
and you come with a true criticism. You know, like that's something that's productive towards someone you want to listen to, because I'm guessing that's what you're doing it for. And the podcast as well, they're like, oh, this is where I went wrong, blah blah blah. But to just say things to hurt another person.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you know what I've just realized? We talked about nihilism before, right? And your name is Solomon.
Yeah.
And it's the same name as King Solomon from the Bible, who wrote Ephesians, in which he says everything is meaningless.
True.
And
I think it's a biblical thing.
Do you know
because, honestly, I want to talk about nihilism a bit, and
I'm like, look, you're getting older, you're getting wiser, and the wisest person to have ever lived was a nihilist.
because nihilism. For me, it fits well so much with God, as I've been trying to get back into religion
Yeah.
for the past year or so. Because nihilism is like the idea, like everything is meaningless.
Yeah.
And the best way I can describe this is the idea of a volcano, like
Yeah.
a super volcano.
Yeah.
When a super volcano erupts on Earth, it makes it so that the world changes completely. A lot of things die, a lot of things evolve and change to fit the new environment. It's cold, plants die. There's so much change that's happening. But in the truest sense of nature, the word destruction doesn't come into the mind. What comes into mind is change. It's just changing from one environment that fitted this specific species to the next. It's that kind of change where when stars die, when planets die, it's just true nature to me. But humans, we have something that nature doesn't have, which is reason.
Yeah.
And reason compels us to, like, okay, this thing changed from this to this. There was so much greenery, but this volcano came up, destroyed this like 1,000-acre forest and stuff, and we call it destruction. But if it was in nature and humans didn't exist, there's no word for it, there's nothing. It's just the earth, doing its thing.
Going through its cycles.
Exactly. And no one would worry about it, no one would want to stop about it, even all the animals. But because God gave us this gift of reason, we have to, I don't want to say, we have to be above nature to a certain extent. And to be above nature is to have choice, which nihilism fits perfectly. Because if nothing matters and the only thing that exists is our own free will, we have to choose.
Of course.
Every day we choose what we eat, what morals we like, and what morals we'll follow.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. Like you say, if we didn't exist, the world would just go about its business. Things would come, things would go. But because we have reason, with reason comes the desire to control your surroundings and your circumstances. And now if there is a city under a volcano, we go, oh no, Pompeii, what a tragedy.
Exactly.
But if you really think about it, why would you build a city under a volcano?
It's not even that. It's like, yeah.
It's like asking for a disaster to happen, but at the same time, because you've got your city there, you want to control the volcano so it doesn't happen, and you can't.
Again, and probably there is a reason you built
It's
your
because
city there.
it's fertile and volcanoes bring life.
Yeah,
and it's
they're
abundant.
bringing nutrition from the ground.
Do you know
and
what I
so,
mean?
Like after 100 years, that volcano that exploded and killed all this, the plants that will grow there, they'll grow
They'll be the best plants.
because seeds can be, transferred
Scattered there and all
through
of that.
rain,
And
through wind.
Probably when they lived there, they were like, jokes on you guys, we've got the most fertile farms in the whole continent.
Exactly.
And then, after Vesuvius did his thing, everyone's like, jokes on you guys, we're still alive.
But that's the beauty of humanity, isn't it? Like humanity, we keep learning, it's like as a child you keep learning. It's the same thing with humanity.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like the future. So looking forward to that.
But see, I don't understand how you're looking forward to it when you think everything is meaningless. You should be like,
No.
if an asteroid was to hit us
but that's the
today,
thing.
that would be fine.
I think
It's all
everything is meaningless, but if I see like a butterfly flying, I'm like, I can recognize its beauty, the color, like, oh my god, how does that fly?
Yeah.
The mechanism between the pollination, the butterfly wings, and I'm like, that's fascinating, and that comes from reasoning. Like everything that happens in nature, everything, the technology we have, that's fascinating. Like that shouldn't exist. It only exists because of our reasoning. And how can I not be in awe of it when everything else is meaningless and we are creating meaning from nothingness? Like that's amazing.
I mean, when you put it like that, you've got this charisma. You've got me excited about the future now. I'm like, what more meaning are we going to eke out of nothing?
Then you put God in there. You're like, okay, I got it all, man.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But while you were out celebrating your birthday this week, I got sent a peak flow meter. Do you know what a peak flow meter is?
Please do explain.
So a peak flow meter is a device that you use to record the strength of your lungs, essentially.
Oh yeah, I have one of those. I'm actually doing like a stud. I have a. I don't know what they. Okay, yes, you talk. I need to look this up. No, because they sent me a text about this.
And you're doing a survey.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a survey.
They sent me a survey as well. And after I did the survey, they say they want to measure my asthma and they want to see whether my treatment needs to change. So after I did the survey, they said, yep, you need a peak flow meter and you're going to take it for a couple of weeks and you're going to record your readings. So I got it yesterday. I'm going to start on Sunday because that's the first day on their chart. So I thought, let me just wait a couple of days. And essentially what a peak flow meter is, for those who don't know, it's this small hand-sized device that you blow into, and it's got a few dials that move as you blow. And what these do is they allow you to record the strength of your lungs. It's not how long you can blow, it's how strongly you can blow. So you're supposed to try and exhale all of the air in your lungs within a second. And that will show you, how strong your lungs are. And how severe your asthma might be, because your asthma does, restrict your esophagus, trachea. Esophagus is food. It restricts your trachea, which means that the amount of air you can get out over a short period of time is lower. So by testing this out, they can see, whether your trachea needs stronger treatment, either steroidal inhalers or different medication, or whether it's controlled enough with regular blue reliever inhalers and brown preventer inhalers. So I got that, and I was like, I really hope my asthma's not getting worse. Like I said, I'm starting with the peak flow tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you say you also got the survey.
Yeah. I got the survey because during Christmas I got really sick. I came to stay with you guys.
Mm.
Amazing hospitality with that. Yeah, because I've been using my inhaler more often, so they think they need to check whether you got COVID as well, right?
I did get COVID.
I got COVID as well, so
Yeah.
they want to check to see if we have the long COVID. Man, if I have the long COVID, I'm going to be.
If I have the long COVID, I'm gonna start shopping for coffins.
But
well
I
and
do have to say, I do feel like the burden on my body.
truly.
But maybe that's just because I don't like cardio.
I'm trying to exercise and I'm slowly making peace
Oh my
that I'm
God.
going to be fat for the rest of my life.
No, don't say that. You give me hope. You give me hope. You have like a cycle in your house and you live near close to a gym and you actually exercise and eat healthy.
Oh
Like
God.
if not you, then who? You know what I mean?
I mean, I try and I feel like there's barely any progress being made. So I'm feeling
You're just too tall,
pessimistic.
so the fat is like inches all over the body.
Oh right. See, there's a guy at my church who's like 6'5" or 6'6", and I was at my parents' house and he came to visit my parents as well, and I asked him for a hug, and oh. I felt like I was a kid again, getting hugged by my dad or something. It was so warm.
All encompassing.
Oh, I was on someone's chest. He put his arms around. I felt so safe.
You're like, okay,
Now I understand why women like dating tall men.
You know, see, like when I do the.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, when someone comes to me and they ask for a hug, and I'm just like, why do people like hugs?
Yeah,
so I
sometimes
get it.
It's good to be the small spoon.
Oh, it's so good to be the small spoon sometimes. So yeah, I was really happy about the hug. You've said that your asthma got worse over Christmas period when you had an incident at work. What exactly happened?
Yeah, I went into a room which I was supposed to be wearing like a filter mask, but I didn't because I'd gone into that room so often. But as soon as I went into the room, I could smell the dampness and the mold and stuff. And from there onwards, I got a chest infection and a lot of things went wrong. And it was just a cascading thing where it just kicked the. You know, like when you're asthmatic during like winter season, you're more prone to, for me anyways, when you get like a cold and stuff, that's when it's more dangerous for me. Rather, I have to asterisk, a summer cold is the worst thing because you have pollen and you also congested stitches.
Oh man.
I don't know. What about you? Have you ever had any, like winter or summer? Which one is the worst for you?
Winter's definitely by far the worst. See, I don't get hay fever, and I think it's because I was born in summer. I always tell people, oh yeah, it's because I'm a summer baby. So how can my own season hate me? But then my mum was also born in July, and she gets hay fever really bad. So I think my theory on that is off. But if I ever do get hay fever, I'll really have to climb a mountain. And, you know, while the lightning's going and the rain, I'll be screaming, God, why have you forsaken me? This was the one thing I had.
Yeah.
You know, my body's failing me. My lungs are failing me. The one thing I had was that I don't get hay fever.
Yeah.
So if I get hay fever, I will, you know, I'll live in a bubble. I just will say the world hates me and I'll live in a bubble.
Again, yeah. I think it's the same with hay fever. It's the same with asthma as well. I think age controls it as well. Because I remember coming here and, you know, smelling the fresh cut grass and just started sneezing all the time.
What do you think it is? Because I think a lot of Africans say that, you know, they got hay fever after coming here. Do you think it's the, you know, floral diversity of the country?
I think that's what it has to be. I think it's just the diversity of, you know,
vegetation and flora.
Vegetation. Because it's like, I think it's just the pollen, the different type of pollens you're used to, and what your biological body can, you know.
Because hay fever is such a common thing, even from British-born people, that I don't even know if it's what your body's used. I just think it's common here because there is so many different kinds of plants, so there's so much different kind of pollen, and there's so much more wind to blow the pollen around. Whereas in Zimbabwe, in Malawi, there's not as much wind.
Because
there's not as much.
They have so much medication for it.
Exactly.
I feel like it has to be lucrative.
Whereas, or do you think it's just that Africans are just like a slap on the back, man up type of mentality?
No, because I am so sure about this. Like, I never had it. Because, talking about asthma, my first episode was, we were at a school festival. I was running the 100 meters, and I was like, I'm the man. I used to love to run.
Oh yeah. So how did you do? Were you among the top 3? Did you make the podium?
No, I didn't. I didn't make it halfway through. That was my first asthma attack.
So the whole race stopped because you were in the middle of the track.
It didn't stop. Like, the other guys finished.
The other guys finished,
and they called themselves my
celebrating,
friends.
popping,
and I'm like,
popping champagne, and you're just
juice boxes everywhere. I'm like, guys, I'm still halfway through it. But
oh, that's brilliant.
And my mom used to work close by as well.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I got an inhaler.
So what was it like being diagnosed? Especially what was it like in Africa? Because I got diagnosed here when I was around 6 years old. What was it like when you first got diagnosed?
I didn't get it. I didn't get it actually.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't get what was wrong with me. Yeah, when I first got diagnosed, I was just a kid, on a school field, and I'm trying to breathe. I can't breathe, and it became one of my worst fears in life. Just the idea of trying to breathe and you can't. Then we went to the doctors, and they gave me the most amazing tool ever invented, an inhaler. Oh my God, that's that's such an amazing tool. God bless who invented it. And after that, in Africa, it was so... But I still didn't get how important it was that I was asthmatic. I thought I ran too fast. This is what I thought. I thought asthma came from running.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I hate running. Anyway, that's what I blame it on. But yeah, I thought because I ran too fast, they gave me this thing to calm me down. I shouldn't do too much of that anymore. And at school, they stopped me from doing it.
Yeah.
Until one day when I realized, like, no, this is something within me.
Yeah.
When I woke up and I couldn't breathe properly, but this is my house. This is somewhere I've been forever.
Yeah.
And it just came. And like when you're young, sometimes they're like, oh, he doesn't want to go to school.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, that was my dad.
And parents, sometimes they're like, you know what, he's really putting in the work. I'll let him have this one, But as time went on, around 1 p.m., I was at a point where I could not breathe. I could not do anything. And from that day onwards, I was out for 3 days. Just living in this fear of not having enough air and just gasping to see how much you're doing through your nose.
Yeah.
But it's not enough. It's not enough. And that was such a horrible feeling that I'm still afraid of today. Because I'm like...
No, it's honestly a horrible feeling. I completely get you. I've got it too, but you almost feel like you can't trust your body because breathing is one of the most subconscious necessary things that our bodies do.
I even thought about it today, and I was like, in heaven, can you breathe? Because I would love to breathe, because I was like, such a fresh breath, just a good deep breath, just, and you feel all that air rushing into your lungs and stuff. It's so comforting. And when you can't even do that.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
It's honestly scary. And going back to what you said earlier, actually, I've just looked it up. It was an English physician slash astronomer called John Mudge who created the first inhaler in 1778.
Wow, really?
And it was a big old clunky device where people breathed in opium vapor to treat a really bad cough back then. And they'd pour water in a tank, close the lid, and then they'd breathe in steam through a flexible tube.
Oh.
And there'll be opium in it. And I'm thinking, imagine we had opium in our inhalers.
No,
We'd
oh my
get
God.
high as-
Oh my God. Have you ever done this? You know Vicks?
Yeah.
You take a bucket of boiling water.
Oh,
you
yeah,
mix
yeah,
it in
yeah.
with Vicks.
Yeah.
And you just cover it. It clears up your nostrils. I'm pretty sure they have a machine for it now.
Do they?
They have to.
They have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was in the 1800s when somebody made it a bit more portable, and there was a pump which forced a liquid solution through an atomizer into vapor. And then in 1956, a 13-year-old girl asked her dad, who was the president of Riker Laboratories, George Mason, why they couldn't have her medication for her asthma in a small pump and spray it like they do perfume.
Yeah, you see, the kids are the future.
Kids are the future. So that's when we got things like our metered dose inhalers. But for you, how obviously you're a kid, you like running, and you started having these breathing problems, and you think running is the problem, and then you slowly realize that running isn't the problem, your lungs are. How did that impact your daily life or what you wanted to get up to?
Honestly, the first thing was just I had my inhaler after those 3 days, man. I had my inhaler everywhere. Like I just kept it with me until. But that's the interesting thing. That was the last time I actually had an asthma attack.
Really?
No, until years later.
Until you got
like
a bit
a
older.
decade later, you know, because I don't know what happened. Maybe that was the last, big thing or whatever.
Do you know, I'm pretty similar. I got diagnosed, like I said, at 6 years old. Was at the hospital, used a peak flow meter, and they're like, yo, this boy can't breathe. So they give me inhalers and all of that, and I use them quite frequently for the next maybe year or two. And then nothing from about then to about 18. Just nothing.
Yeah.
And after that, it started to get really bad again. So in my adult years, I've always had an inhaler with me, even though I'd still go through periods of not using it and then periods of needing it all the time.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you had an incident recently at work around the Christmas time where you went into a room which had mold and dust in it, and this caused you to suffer a pretty bad asthma attack and a pretty bad episode where you were having trouble breathing, and you ended up staying here at my place to try and recuperate. Do you have any other triggers that you've noticed in your life so far?
Okay. Oh my God. Yes, I have terrible ones, man. Like perfume, which is the worst one, especially if you're on a date.
Oh, you smell so nice.
Yeah.
Excuse me while I
your
die.
date, and you keep pulling out your inhaler, man. It's so cool. You know, you're like, it's not me, it's you. It's because you go to your friend's place. Oh, even here, I'm pretty. Oh my God, here, how many times have you had to like change your, turn off your good.
Candles.
Oh my God, the candles, they smell nice, but it's such an inconvenient thing where wherever you go, you never know what the trigger is, and you might. To me, that's the annoying thing about it. That's the inconvenience of the perfumes, the smells, going into different environments and not knowing how they affect you, because I do like to go on walks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I love it, and I live near a river, so it's like amazing. But
Stopping to smell the roses could be
I can't do that.
life or death.
Exactly. And if they cut something or there's a, it's yeah, yeah. That's the annoying part of it.
Yeah.
The different smells where you don't know where they're coming from, or but still they affect you and they just put you down.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. You know, there's all kinds of other triggers for different people. I've got similar to you where smells and
What's your worst trigger? Like, what's the one that annoys you the most?
the one that annoys me the most is probably perfume. Because like you say, it's so commonplace. You know, somebody could think, "Oh, I've really made myself smell nice. I've sprayed some nice perfume." But to you, it's just that little bit too strong. And now you're coughing, you're moving away, you're having to use your inhaler. And sometimes it makes you feel a bit rude because you're
Yeah.
not telling them you smell or that there's anything wrong with them.
Sure.
But it's just your lungs are allergic to anything that even remotely has a fragrance.
Oh, okay. What about the underground, the London Underground?
Oh my, I can't stand the London Underground.
I can't be there.
I can't be there.
Like, if I'm there, I have my inhaler all the time.
Yeah,
Honestly.
if I'm on the Underground, I have to sit by a window and the window has to be slightly open. And even though the air on the Underground is horrible, at least because the train is moving, you're getting air that is supposedly moving.
Oh my
so
God.
it's fresh, but it's still horrible. And if I can avoid, I drive into London
Oh my God.
just so that I don't have to use the Underground.
You also like, I have to, this was one of my first interviews here in England, and I had to go to London because that's where the company was based. And I used the Underground for the first time in my life. And the first time I got an asthma attack in a cart full of people. I could not breathe. I'm coughing. And no one would look or pay attention to me. I'm like, London people suck. Honestly, if there's anyone who lives in London, be kind.
Yeah.
Look after me. But I was like, and then this amazing, generous Indian person, he came to me and he gave me an inhaler. I was like, he knew. Like, I hadn't had an inhaler for ages, and I hadn't had an asthma attack for years.
Yeah.
And this generous old man just came to me. I'm like, you know what? People are good.
Do you know what? You're probably luckier than me because, you know, when I went through that period where my asthma wasn't bothering me, and obviously I stopped getting inhalers from the GP, I was playing football with some friends just at a field, not competitive or anything. And I just stopped. I just couldn't breathe.
Shit.
And I remember what, like, I was told if I don't have an inhaler, where they said you have to try and open your lungs up. So you put your hands behind your head and you just try and breathe slowly, even though, you know, the instinct is to panic breathe.
Man.
But they're telling you to breathe slowly, deep breaths to try and control it. I ended up laying on the floor. Everyone crowds around me, and I'm just like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And they're all panicking. What do we do? What do we do? Some of them got me water, but water doesn't help. It helps afterwards because odds are you've either coughed or stressed your throat into hurting. But at the time, I just needed to try and get my breathing under control, and it was horrible.
Oh man, the panic. Are you okay with it these days? Like when you said,
I've genuinely been very good under like extreme circumstances. So even in situations where most people would panic, I'm normally quite good at being like, okay, this is happening. This is what I need to do. And I tend to think my way through troublesome situations.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So in that situation, I was like, what do I need to do because I can't breathe?
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh my God, I can't breathe. Everyone help.
Oh my God. For me, I think it's gotten like it's a level.
Yeah.
I know there's a level where if I get and I cannot breathe, I start to panic because I'm like, I don't know. It's that fear of like suffocating. I don't know. I have that fear of suffocating, which is so terrible when you have asthma.
Yeah.
Because every time you get an asthma attack, you're like, okay, how long until I get to my phobia? You know, where I'm like panicking and reason is.
You know, when I was a teenager, I used to think I could almost like go through an anime training arc.
Oh.
So I'd be in the shower and I'd turn the water gradually colder and colder and colder. And you know when you're under cold water and you're like
That's training.
yeah, and I'd be like, get your breathing under control.
Oh my
and I'm
God. You know,
and eventually my breathing's under control and I'm like, okay, colder. And it just gets colder
You know
and colder.
what?
And I thought this is like being under a waterfall in one of those anime training montages. And I was like,
rest in peace to Toriyama.
oh yeah.
But man, that guy gave so much
I think
it's very like I thought I could do that. Like honestly, Dragon Ball Z and all that, they gave me like that false confidence.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, if I just exercise more, if I you know what? Like going to the gym, pushing the weights, I'm like
honestly.
Even if I don't, you know, like you get that idea of like, okay, I can't run. Again, that fear, you know, like of not being able to breathe properly.
Yeah.
I can lift weights and hopefully the muscles will do enough job.
It made my legs bigger.
You know, like that's such a hobby.
Nah, no, honestly, rest in peace, Toriyama. I think Dragon Ball was everybody's first anime. And like you say, when they got into that hyperbolic time capsule or whatever,
You believe
and they
like training changes.
You believe, let me just do 1,000 push-ups a day.
Yeah,
and
it will take longer because I don't have the time machine.
Huge. Do you know what I mean? Like when you see Kid Gohan looking jacked, you're like, anyone can do it. Like with Goku and Vegeta, you're like, yeah, you guys are grown up. But Kid Gohan being as jacked as he was, you're like, there's hope.
They put us in the gym. They did great work.
Do you know what I did?
He made so many people healthy.
Do you know what I did as a kid? I used to do press ups on the stairs, right? And then I had like a wooden single bed, and I'd get under the bed and I would bench the bed.
That's so anime. Sorry, I would be proud.
Do you know what I mean? I was like, I need to do anything I can to get wham.
No, because I'll be honest, I don't know how you deal. I know you're very active and exercising and stuff.
I try to be. Don't say very. It's gonna send the wrong image.
My God, man! I remember.
Yeah.
This is a thing where what you get robbed with asthma sometimes when it's severe. There was a point in time where I could do kickboxing, swimming, and weightlifting in one night before going to work.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, I would go to the gym. Like, I would do these things within 24 hours and I'll be fine, you know. But then, I don't know what happens or what causes it. There's some times where just running will make me feel... I still don't understand that, even though I live with the condition.
Yeah.
Like, what causes... Like, what's the different seasons? You know what I mean? Like, I can do so much physical activity, but then the next time, I can't.
Yeah.
And
I think
it's so frustrating and feels so limiting and feels like your life is not necessarily yours. It's more like whims of, you know.
Yeah, I think with different seasons, I think the main things are temperature, wind, and humidity. So when it's winter time and it's cold, our respiratory systems are less efficient. And for us who've got bad lungs as it is, it increases the chances of having breathing problems because it's colder, we're not working as efficiently. Cold air makes it harder for us to efficiently get oxygen into our bloodstream. And when it's warmer and it's more humid, the warm air and the moisture in the air makes it harder for us to extract that oxygen into our bloodstream. So that's why temperature tends to be quite a big factor. And I even had to cut, going back to perfumes and fragrances, I even had to cut fragranced body lotion out of my circulation because even that would sometimes make me feel not very well.
Man, I found like a good perfume. I would have to say the oil-based ones have been the best
Yeah.
fit for me.
Yeah.
And if I find a good perfume, I go for unperfumed lotion and I
Yeah.
just mix it.
Yeah.
One for the lotion and one for the clothes. That's what I'm doing.
I typically just spray a little bit and then just leave wherever I sprayed and just hope by the time that I stop, I've moved enough that the strength of the spray isn't going to overwhelm me.
The worst thing is like I have a spray, a new one, and I like it, and I spend the whole day feeling okay. I go to sleep when I wake up, and I'm like, because I've gone to someone's place and I slept in my t-shirt and the perfume through the night. But I'm like, oh, okay,
Oh man.
let's do that.
So you've said that you've got, a fear of not being able to breathe, right? Is that probably the most challenging part of living with asthma for you?
Yeah, you know what? When I was around 16, I came to England and I started to learn chemistry for real.
Yeah.
And one of the experiments, when I came to, when I was around 16 and I came to England, one of the amazing things I got to experience was the education system and how expansive it was. And the experiments were something you could actually do. They were that accessible. And I was at home and I thought it was a good idea to create chlorine gas in my kitchen using bleach and everything. I was so sure I could do it, right? So I mix all these chemicals and I'm like, chlorine gas wasn't it was just a byproduct. It wasn't, but that's what good thing. And I could feel it burn my, my nostrils, my whatever. And I went to sleep. Then I woke up around 2 a.m. And when you're a kid and you do something wrong and you're like hoping it can go away before someone notices it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case. My mom, I had to wake up my mom. I had to go to the hospital. They put me on a oxygen tank for like a long time.
Yeah.
That was my first asthma attack in like a long time.
Yeah.
And from then onwards, that fear came back again of like, there's nothing. I don't know how to explain it. It's like effort doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can try to pull in as much air as you want. You can do, unless you have the exercises you were talking about.
Yeah.
But it was something that I was not equipped with at the time.
Yeah.
So it was just desperation at that point. That's where my fear comes from.
Yeah.
Of like that desperation.
So what other challenging aspects of living with it do you think you've experienced? Like, obviously you have to pick and choose how and where you exercise and
True.
And what to spray or rub on your skin, things like that. But is there other parts that you think, it's made this really inconvenient?
Yes. One of the parts when it's really bad for me, it's the physical activities that include socialization. And when I was younger, it was a bit so simple. I was scared that I would get an asthma attack, You know what I'm talking about? I'm like, I'm young. I'm getting into things that I don't know about, and I'm like, this is a form of exercise. Am I going to get an asthma attack during this? Like, those were the things I was like afraid of. I grew up loving agriculture, but I had to get away from that because nature, physical activity, and all that other stuff, it's not good. You know, if you keep having those sort of problems. So
Yeah.
I focus more on the academic thing. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that sort of like it changed my life. Like it sort of determined like where I would go because I would love to be in the nature, doing all that growing stuff and
Yeah.
stuff. But
You kind of
like,
have to pick and choose your
yeah,
battles.
you pick and choose and where you fit in
Yeah.
life based on what you have. So that's. What about you?
For me, I think probably the most challenging aspect is stamina.
Oh.
Like, I've always just accepted I've got terrible stamina. And
So are you like the golden card where they pull in like, oh, it's in for like 10 minutes, but that 10 minutes is golden.
I wish it was always golden. You should see some of the people that I've played with, and they're like, oh my god, get this guy away from the ball. But no, it's always been a case of, you know, without trying to sound too much, too big headed. I've always been pretty good at football. It's just I couldn't do 90 minutes. I can't do it for a long time. And everyone's like, run. And I'm like, I just did. I can't do it now. I just did. I need to. But because they've got good stamina, even people who are more out of shape than I am, they're able to just keep running. And I'm like,
so
how?
crazy.
Do you know what I mean? I want to eat like you and still be able to run. But no matter how well I eat, I can't do it.
Man, like that's one of my problems. Like during PE class, I could keep up with everyone. But then when you go to the actual sport and you have to do it for like 2 hours.
I did when I was in school, I did do athletics, but I could only do short distance, or like what I was really good at was the sprinting and the jumping. Long distance, don't even look at me.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
What about swimming? Did you ever had problems with that? I know you've been doing swimming and stuff.
I can't swim.
Yeah.
So I never had any problems with it because I stayed away from the water.
I thought you were taking some classes with some old ladies and stuff.
Oh, that was that. I can't believe you're gonna expose me like this. So that wasn't swimming lessons. That was more like, you know, aqua aerobics.
Oh.
And, you know, I was like, oh, I've got these terrible joints. Maybe exercise in water will be good. So I went to this class, and it's just over like women over 60s, like people that look like they could be my mum's friends.
Man,
and
I'm
just
not
like,
even.
one of them looked at me.
I'll tell you what.
And they just couldn't stop looking at me.
Man, I had to learn to swim whilst a 70-year-old guy was swimming laps on the next pool. Like, and I'm a guy. I'm like 20 something, and I'm like, and there's this guy who was like, and it's in the morning or in the evening, and he's just doing laps. I'm like,
Jokes.
He's looking at me, and some of the ladies in my class were old as well. I was the only like. I don't know if it's like guys are scared to go to learn to swim after a certain age, but I was like, you know what, I'll get to deep side.
They are scared, because I went to inquire about swimming lessons, and I go to the office, and there's 2 young men and a young woman in this room, and I'm like, I'm here to inquire about swimming lessons. First question, how old is your child? I said,
they're like, no.
I will destroy this office if you guys don't behave. About how old is your child? He's as old as me. I am the child.
just ask.
Oh my god, I was so offended. They're like, well, I mean, you can join the classes, but most of the people in the class are children. And I'm like, well, then it's not an adult class, is it? And I'm clearly asking about adult swimming lessons. And oh, and then they ended up going, oh, it's £90 a lesson. I said, well, why didn't you start with that? And I would have saved all of us all this time.
Oh man, it's so
It's just ridiculous.
it's one of those things where I I have to. I am going to go back. I can swim now, but I still feel like I can get more style. You know.
Style.
Oh my god. You know the.
You want to be swimming on your side all seductively.
My god, I want to be as sexy as possible, just doing the best breaststroke, you know,
Oh
just
my God.
backstroke and just like, oh, look at him. As long as I can get my abs above the water and just make sure.
Oh, your abs.
I'm like,
At what point,
I'll get them.
At what point do we get the abs
I
so
know,
they can
it's
be
a
above?
wish. You know what? I feel like if I start swimming, I'll get there.
Oh my god!
I think my body was made for water. I love water, so you know.
I mean, you do love water, especially ice water.
No, what
so
about
you
you?
must be great in the.
As someone who's asthmatic, what's your like favorite exercise that makes you feel comfortable and you can just do your thing and feel like you've actually, you know, like put in the work?
You know, I'd love to swim because I know how good swimming is, and swimming would be great for my joints as well. So maybe I'd be good at that once I learn, and I have got it on my list of things to do.
The old ladies are waiting for you to come back.
That was
Young black man.
aerobics. You know, and the water, because it was for all these old short ladies, the water was like knee height for me. So they're like high knees, and I'm like,
It's so disappointing,
I'm not on the
isn't it?
water.
You're like,
It was
I
horrible.
need to immerse myself.
it was horrible. It was horrible. So
okay,
I had to quit those. But if I do proper swimming lessons, that would be one thing. But when it comes to exercises outside of the water that you know are good for me, it's quite difficult because things that are good for me in terms of my respiratory system
Yeah.
aren't good for my joints, and things that are good for my joints don't really do a great deal for my.
You have to find like a really good sweet spot.
Exactly. So when I do cardio, the best thing is probably cycling on, you know, a stationary bike, or if I can get one, you know, going outside and cycling. That would probably be good exercise because it's not too intense on my joints, and you know, you can take breaks. You can pedal a little bit slowly and recover when you're getting exhausted, and push yourself when you want. So that's probably the best exercise for me when it comes to asthma. Things like jogging.
I want to run a half marathon before I die. Like, I really do you not want to, like, to feel like you're going to pee yourself as you're running? Maybe you do it, but you're like, you know what? I'm going for a greater goal. Pee myself. That's nothing. Like, you know what? I do. No, because I have searched like marathon running, like the accidents that happen. That's one of the list ones. But I'm like, I feel like
I mean,
I would love to be able to push my body to a point of like, you know, like willpower controlling my body.
Yeah.
Where my willpower is like, you know what, you can't do this anymore. Your lungs are burning.
Yeah.
Your joint, you know, like to a point where I'm like, the self within me, it's like it gives up. Not that the body gives up.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Yes. When you put it like that, I'd love to, you know, my body to reach a point where it can take on a challenge like that. And then it's just the mental ability to get through the challenge. I get that.
True, like
and
it's comforting.
I do not want to run a marathon though, or a half marathon, or a quarter. I don't want to do it because running.
Triathlon.
Oh. If I don't want to run a marathon, why would I want to? Why would I want to swim a marathon too?
You're fancy like that. You're like, you know, I don't want fish. I want caviar.
You don't know how much I hate you. But I think running is boring. That's probably the biggest reason why I couldn't do it. Like I'm just left with my thoughts. Even if I've got music playing, I'm just left with my thoughts.
People who are running and listening to this podcast, he lies. Running is entertaining.
No,
and you can
it's not.
testify.
Get a life. I know you hate what you're doing. You just love the results
No,
of
oh my
it.
god, have you seen these people? They look like life is the most amazing thing.
That's because they've got a really low bar. Running is fun. That's how low the bar is. Running is boring. My bar is up here. I like if I'm gonna run, I want there to be a
Jogging.
ball and I want to be able to score goals.
Jogging, swimming, boxing. Which one are you picking? You have to pick one.
Is that with my body or with a perfect body?
No, with your body.
With my body. Well,
Yeah.
I'd pick swimming.
Yeah.
Because it's the least joint intensive, even though I can't do it. If it's based on what I can do right now, then boxing's number one. Because boxing is interesting. It's
You know what?
exhausting, but it's interesting.
This is the thing. I love boxing. I go there in the bag and I'm like,
I hope you're actually throwing punches and not just making sounds.
okay. Yeah, I'm like, I'm just like left hook, the right hook, and I'm doing the little dance, like doing footwork. It's footwork, people. Footwork.
The Muhammad Ali, the hot stuff.
By the way, I did do train like with proper kickboxing professional.
Yes. So you know the proper name for it is the dance.
I've been kicked and punched by real trained professional, so I know what I'm talking about. But there's something about boxing. I'll say kickboxing because I do like, it's like setting your tempo and waiting to the moment. Like I have this combo in mind. I'm going to do 3 jabs and then I'm going to throw a hook. Then I'm throw and up. Like. You plan it in your mind, and then you execute it with your body, and what you're trying to do is just perfect that combo. It's not necessarily like jogging where you have to do it the longest amount of time. It's basically you judging yourself. You're like, okay, did I throw that combo the best I could? Was it the most powerful? Was it the most swiftest? Was it, like, did it look sexy? Did I do it properly?
What do you think about? Because I when I go to the gym, I sometimes go to the body bag as well.
Yeah.
And when I'm throwing punches, and nobody's holding it, so it's swinging around as I hit it, which is annoying. Which is annoying. When I throw punches, I'm thinking I throw different punches, but I'm thinking, is it as quick as I can get my punch to be?
You see?
And then other times I'm thinking, is it as pinpoint? Is that the area of the bag I wanted to hit?
And sometimes you're feeling vain.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, did I look sexy? Like my combo. Sometimes you go into the gym, right? And you've been going for like weeks and stuff, and you put in your gym clothes and you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a bit tight. That's a bit like showy.
Yeah.
Am I doing something right?
Yeah.
Then you get to the bag, you're like, oh. Did I look like an action star? It's like one of those things where I know it's silly, but I'm like, sometimes I think about it, I'm like, I've been practicing this combo for a long time. I've watched some YouTube and I'm doing it.
How did we even?
And this is the worst part of it. I don't try to impress the girls.
Yeah.
It's the guys. It's the guys. Because
Look
I'm like,
at me, fellas.
no. I'm like,
Look at how I punch.
you see the guy doing like a deadlift with so much weight. You're like, is a human body supposed to carry that much of weight? But you're like, when I hit this bag, did you hear the sound it made? Like. Honestly, you go to the gym for the guys. You don't go for the ladies. And that's what I know.
One of the triggers that exacerbates asthma is laughing.
So
you guys better watch yourselves. Do you know, one of my worst ever asthma attacks in terms of the repercussions of it was from laughing.
What?
Yeah, I was talking with my mum, right? We were just in my bedroom having a conversation.
Yeah.
And then she said something and I started laughing. And then the laugh turned into a cough.
Oh.
And then the cough turned into a coughing fit, which went into an asthma attack. But I still was coughing during the asthma
Oh
attack.
yeah.
And then I ended up really, really hurt. I had to go to an ambulance was called by my mum. They came. They took me to the CCU
Oh wow.
at the Royal Bucks. That's the cardio care unit or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And after some scans, it turned out I tore my diaphragm. So that laughing led to my worst asthma
that has
attack.
to be some funny joke. You know what? On our next time, if you ever like, you have to tell me that.
I don't even remember what
you
she said. I think my memory
the
from that
joke
night
that
just
almost killed me. That's the name of the episode. You know. Oh my god.
I'll ask her actually. Maybe my mum remembers what she said.
Oh my god, that's so. Oh my god, I don't know why. That's so funny and sad at the same time. It's like laughter almost killed you. I'm like, that's funny, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, that's sad.
Oh, but
I'll
yeah,
laugh for that one.
yeah. I'll try and ask her and try and figure out what it was that she said. But
yeah,
that was the craziest.
I would laugh at your funeral if you died because you were laughing. What happened? Oh, that no, I'm not going to laugh the whole time.
My tombstone would be like, no crying aloud. He died laughing.
Exactly.
Oh, man, but what are your coping strategies for dealing with your asthma, and how have you handled any attacks or severe episodes?
Yeah, it's something you mentioned earlier ago. You know, like the position you're supposed to sit in. You know, sit upright, or you know, just do all these things to make sure you mitigate the effect of asthma. And so first of all, keep your inhaler in your pocket. Like that's the most important thing, and this is one of the things I love about England. I can get an emergency inhaler, but you remember last time I was here, I couldn't get one, and you had to give me yours because I was that scared to go to work without an inhaler. So you know, but most of the time, in terms of that, they're really great with it. But I'm just scared of not having a quick response.
Yeah.
So whenever I have to like work by myself, if I'm doing like a night shift and I'm looking all over the hotel by myself and stuff, and I'm the one responsible for it, I just feel like my health is as important as the job I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for me to go to a job where I'm going to be doing like 14 hours and I'm responsible for so many things, but I forget to take care of myself.
Yeah.
So at work, I have an emergency already set up situation. Like if I get an asthma attack, which I cannot handle, there's already like a call sheet for myself.
Yeah.
This is great for the company I work with, like every medical like emergency.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that. At home, I have some people I've spoken to because I had to call the ambulance a couple of times. So I just made those arrangements to make sure. And if you know push comes to shove, I can just bother you because.
I've always got spares. What do you wish more people understood about asthma or living with asthma?
It's the fear of it. Like when someone is, I don't know, because I'm like the fear of it. Like not being able to breathe is terrifying.
It's terrifying.
And I don't know if it's just my phobia of it that I've developed or whatever. But when you're in that moment in time and you can't breathe, just reassurance, like just like, okay, let's see what we can do for you. If people knew a bit more, were a bit more educated in like what to do or how to set up someone, because sometimes you know someone gets into a situation where they're having an asthma attack, but they themselves don't even know what to do. And if there were like people like the Indian guy I was talking about in the train station,
Yeah.
can just help you
Yeah.
to go past that. So that's what I wish. I wish people understood like how terrified those people are being
Yeah.
because they can't breathe.
Yeah.
And not being able to breathe is terrifying. I don't think people in general can do anything to help other than be comfortable,
Yeah.
be comforting, and call medical help.
Yeah.
But they themselves, I don't know.
I feel like people who do have it tend to be the ones who educate the people around them, because people just know they've got asthma, they have an inhaler.
True, like
And that's-
everything else.
and that's all that they know, and they understand that because of their asthma they can't breathe, and the inhaler relieves them and helps them breathe. That's all they understand.
True.
But they don't understand if somebody was to have an attack in front of them, what can they do? And they don't understand, if you say, oh, I don't have an inhaler on me while you're having an attack, probably the best things to do are to call emergency services. But if somebody's free and doing nothing, they might be able to ask around if anybody does have an inhaler. But I don't think a lot of people know, and there's so many different misconceptions about them. One of them is that people don't think asthma is a serious disease,
Oh my god.
which is crazy.
They've never experienced it, man. Like not being able to breathe.
Exactly. Like even when you say that out loud, I have a condition that means that sometimes I can't breathe. That sounds as severe as it can be.
You know what? I think it's like how media has portrayed asthma.
Yeah.
It's usually nerds. It's usually weak,
Yeah.
frail people who
Yeah.
have it, and there's a sort of like they deserve it. Like
Yeah.
he's frail. He doesn't know how to run. He doesn't. And you know what? I think if someone were to write a comedic version of my life,
Yeah.
when I'm a teenager, like the first time I tried to run, they'll make a joke about the fact that I can't breathe. Like the nerds,
Yeah.
they'll bully me for that. Not the nerds, but the like I would get bullied for that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that has been portrayed in media
Yeah.
of like asthma, weakness, all that other stuff. It's not actually the real disease. But if you think about it, like you walk into your friend's house, you hug your friend, and suddenly you can't breathe. You hug your friend, you can't breathe.
Yeah.
You walk into your friend's house, you can't breathe. You walk into a building, you can't. Like there's so much things where it's a horror show.
Yeah.
To be in that situation. Where
Like it just feels like you're waiting for your next attack sometimes. Do you know one of the things I've been thinking about recently, and it's because I watched a video about it, was what if at some point, because of my breathing difficulties, I develop sleep apnea? And I'm just like, I don't want to be hooked onto a machine when I sleep. Like sleep is already hard enough to come by.
Okay, you know what? Sleep. I'm good with it because I have a snoring problem. And if I told the people I've ever slept next to, like I can have a machine, and it can breathe for me, and
They won't be bothered by your snoring.
and it's like rhythm and
Yeah.
stuff. I'll be like, I'll probably have a better, healthier home rather than me just doing my thing.
Oh,
yeah, but the sleep apnea, I'm okay with that.
You're
I don't
okay
know,
with that?
Why are you not okay with that?
I struggle to get good sleep.
Yeah.
Good quality sleep. And
You don't think you can sleep on your back?
This probably would help me get better quality of sleep, but I just feel like being hooked onto something else, that adjustment period would be so uncomfortable. And then I reach a certain point where there's just too much. It's too much. Life isn't supposed to be this complicated.
I do.
Like,
Oh,
I'm
man.
supposed to just be able to get into bed, count a few sheep, fall
Yeah.
asleep.
Yeah.
But now I need to get in bed, get nice and comfy, get my mask, hook it onto my face, turn on my machine to breathe for me, and then go to sleep. Oh.
You know what? I'll give you a pass because you're so much. But for me, I'm like, I'm taking that option because if I can put a machine on my face and I can sleep without annoying the person sleeping next to me, and I can actually enjoy a full rest, sleep, and I wake up and I'm not feeling asthmatic, I'll take it. But yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
So another misconception is that people think asthma is a childhood condition which is outgrown by adulthood. And I find this one quite funny because, like you mentioned, they think that only adults who still have asthma are the nerdy ones or the unathletic ones or the people that don't do very much physical activity.
Yeah, do you think we should do a calendar? Like, show how buff and good looking and athletic and healthy we are? Like asthma boys.
I think that would be the poorest selling calendar in the world.
Come on!
I think people would see it and they would throw up. At least not at you, me, maybe. Because they'd see me and they'd just be like, who does he think he is?
Okay, people, he's lying. I don't know if this is going to make it into the podcast, but 10 years later, when C decides to review his face, I wish you judge him for this. When he says it's like, you're a liar. You made us believe he's a good-looking, tall guy, and if he cuts this out, I hope he keeps this one for me.
But being good looking, even if that were the case, it's the body that makes it on a calendar.
Man, I'm looking at you. What are you talking about?
Do you know what? Let's keep it moving.
Okay, we need 2 months in the gym because
2 months is too short. We need half a year.
Okay, this is definitely going to be cut off. But
oh my gosh!
What's the next
you
question?
Lost your mind.
Yeah, this is going to go for the bloopers. Patreon people, you got this one.
Okay. And one of the last misconceptions is asthma is the same for everyone.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm always shocked about. What do you think yours is different from mine? Like from whatever? Like
I think ours is different. I think you cough a lot more than I do. I tend to only cough when I am exposed to either really strong smells or things like cigarette smoke or something.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Because those are horrible.
We did touch on this.
Or if
earlier.
I laugh too much, of course.
We did touch on this earlier, and you were generous enough not to bring it up. But I did, and I do smoke. When I was because
not cigarettes though.
Oh my god! I cannot believe I caught. I cannot believe I caught that. It's like God telling me, like, okay, you shouldn't be doing that.
That's the sign.
Yeah,
That's quit now.
No, I don't smoke tobacco. But when I was at college, you know, you start to try new things. I went to Amsterdam and I smoked a bit there. No asthma attack. Like we spent like 3-4 days there smoking. Did not have an asthma attack whatsoever. But now, just walking into a room, it's so totally different. And that's where the unfairness comes in.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, I'm someone who could enjoy life, quote unquote, you know, like, you shouldn't do that. That's terrible, people. Don't smoke. But you feel like you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's your choice not to do it. But now, it's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because you do that, for the next week, you become more sensitive to things.
Yeah. I've also known people who could, for example, take one puff of their blue inhaler, play an entire football match. Like stamina for days.
Oh, yeah.
And then one puff afterwards and they're good.
Yeah, like that's the thing.
Me,
That's when I was like when I started getting asthma back.
mm,
That was one of my horrible, terrible decisions where I would smoke,
mm,
then I would take a puff on the inhaler because I'm like I don't want life to defeat me.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like I want to do this thing.
mm,
And I think it comes to the nihilism part of it, where like if nothing matters and only God matters because you choose God
mm,
and you choose your, the way you walk in the world, everything you've chosen.
yeah,
I There's something uncomfortable within me that's like my body will not allow me to do this.
yeah,
Where I'm like, no, I'm only here for a certain amount of time. God has
mm,
gifted me this,
mm,
and um, and also I don't know how you feel about this. The idea that God gives you the ability to sin.
no,
Huh?
no, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
Mm,
Yeah, I take you to that possibility that God gives us total freedom,
mm.
whether to follow Him or not.
Well, yeah, I mean that God gives us the ability to follow Him or not,
Yeah.
but the ability to sin
Oh, yeah. That's totally different.
is
Sorry.
separate from Him
Yeah.
giving us the freedom to sin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got that wrong, but that's the freedom I get from nihilism
Mm.
combined with God. Like God gives me freedom to be who I am. I went to Amsterdam with some friends. We drove there and we ended up smoking, and no asthma attacks whatsoever for me, and it was like 4 days of just like 21-year-olds thinking we're invincible. Thinking, we can take the world, it's ours,
Mm.
we can do whatever. And I was smoking and nothing happened to me.
Mm.
But something changes as you grow up, and suddenly every you really have to be careful how you walk in the world.
Mm.
You start to notice things you didn't notice before, like this young maybe I can survive, but what about other people? How are they moving?
Mm.
And it also awakens that part of you, like what's going to happen when I get older? What am I going to be doing? So yeah, that's the difference between people makes it more complicated,
Yeah.
because how can a government, what can we do? Quick response and making sure that at least every asthmatic person has an emergency sort of like.
System around them.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, Solomon, it's been really good to have you here with me, and your wisdom shines through. 32 is looking like a good year for you. What
Yeah, man.
what words of wisdom do you want to leave the listeners with?
In terms of asthma, be prepared. Just have your preventer and your ventilant on the ready. They have to be with you, and your preventer, take it seriously. It's your body. He knows. He knows what's going to happen in the future. Just trust him. And your ventilant, when you're in trouble, he comes in and he bails you out. So just keep that in mind, people. If there are people around you, your loved ones, and you have some sort of responsibility towards them, I think it would be great for you to be able to keep an inhaler with you in a bag. Um, for guys, I wish you could fit one in a wallet, but you can't. But
Right?
yeah, for your for your guy, for your best guy, like just put one in the backpack and let it fall down. You never know whenever it comes in handy. In terms of health, I know jogging and all that, it's the cardio. I know it's like one of those things where It's cumbersome, but we have to do it because we need to. As asthmatic people, our lungs are our lifeline. We just need to do that. We just need to be more cardiovascularly healthier. And the only way you can do that is through exercise. Whatever way you can do it, just do it.
Okay. And any general words of wisdom?
General words of wisdom.
I'm pushing you hard today.
General, man, that's like a life one. That's a bit more expensive. But
I don't have the budget for a general bit of wisdom.
no, general wisdom. I have to say, like, in this day and age, keep your finances cool, and don't lose hope.
Yeah.
No matter how the world tells you you can't be this or you can't afford that or whatever, just keep yourself knowing what you're going for and what you can do, and not limiting your dreams to what the world tells you it can be, because there's so many ways to make your dream come true, right? Other than what the world has let you know. Like what you learn at school is very important, but it's not everything. And what you learn at work, it serves a purpose, but it's not the totality of what makes money or what true responsibility is. There's a wider world there, and even I cannot give you information on that. It's just something you have to experience. So the best advice I can give you is this: keep your eyes open and listen to the people who came before you, because there is something to be learned from all that experience. But at the same time, the world is changing rapidly, and you just have to be able to marry the two: the rapid expansion of the world and the wisdom of the old. Yeah, that's
Bars. Bars. So thank you guys for listening. It's been a pleasure. Let me know your thoughts on this different jingle that I'm trying for this episode. And remember, anything is possible.